afternoon. I am doing a video on the Luciferian Brotherhood, kind of the structure of the system. And for me, this is about knowing your enemy, how to prepare for spiritual warfare in different places. So I'm giving complete credit to Jessie Czebotar, even some of Fritz Springmeier information. So this has come directly from her. In the past few years, I've just taken a ton of notes to do different prayer and things like that. And so I just thought I was just going to put it in one little thing here. She expounds a lot about it, but you can find more information on her website, Kingdom Living with Jessie, and on various platforms that she's on. But I just wanted to put this out here so we can get a general understanding, because she's one of the highest people in the system who has defected and come to Jesus Christ. And so it's really important, I think, in understanding kind of what we're up against. And that's, for myself, something that the Lord has placed me into. It's been many years, and the Lord has shown me over the past, I'd say 15 years, that He specifically was going to let me know the strategy of the enemy, to go into warfare for that. So, but anyone else who would find this beneficial is very, very important. So we're going to move on here. We have the Luciferian Brotherhood business structure. So she calls it a business structure, and it can be very difficult to follow and understand, which is exactly why I'm sure He created it this way. But she was trained to be head over the entire system, and so she laid it out in a place to understand. So I'm going to do my best to kind of relay it in this. So we're going to start with the inner top circle. Now, many of you have probably seen this type of a pyramid, and it kind of shows that structure of the system. And this one is from Fritz Springmeier. He laid it out, and it is fairly accurate as per the testimony of Cisco and of Jessie, and they both come out of the top of the system and turn to Jesus Christ. So I'll kind of go pull up this image periodically just to give us a visual of the layers that we're speaking of. We're going to start at like the very, very, very tippy top. And here he calls it the Great White Brotherhood that is at the top, and those within special positions of the Brotherhood. So we've got the Luciferian Brotherhood business structure, the inner top circle. We're going to start with that. So at the very top, we have Lucifer, who is commanding it all. In the physical realm, we have at the very top the Queen Mother of Darkness, who is also called the Crone. And so when I have something written in yellow, that's going to be their job in the system, and she oversees the entire system, everything. So I don't recall what I was going to say about that, but I'll come back to it if I remember it. Then with her, we have the four mothers of darkness. So I just want to point out, there are other mothers of darkness over each of the 13 bloodlines as well, but this is different. These ones are at the very top, okay, of the pyramid structure. They're not necessarily part of those 13 bloodlines, although they may be, or they probably will be. So we have the second one being represented as the mother and called the mother, and she represents the goddess Isis or Ashtaroth. And then we have the third and the fourth. They are called the maids, or the Queen of Heaven, Queen of the Dead, and represent Jezebel. So their jobs are to oversee the operations of the system with authority and jurisdiction over quadrants. They represent treaties made with the demonic principalities, and they will also meet with Lucifer nightly to receive his plans and to ensure the entire system is in operation according to Lucifer's plan. So they hold angelic contracts with their houses, and I just say that as in they have their four houses representing the four houses of Israel. But of course, they always turn everything upside down. So then, in the top inner circle, under the Mothers of Darkness, we have the Council of 300, or the Druidic Council. We have the Protectors, and they are all Navy SEALs. We have the seven deadly sins, and those are 7 women who hold that position. And then we have 3 of the highest orders in the system. The very highest order is the Order of Melchizedek, and also called the Merlin 5, or the Holy See. And out of the order of Melchizedek, we have two systems. We have the dark system, which branches to the order of the Phoenix, and we've got the Shriners, we've got the order of the Quetzalcoatl in there as well. And then we have the light system, which is the order of the Golden Dawn. And right now we have Barack Obama in that Phoenix position and Mike Pence in the order of the Golden Dawn, the highest position in those orders. So these are all going to be within that top. Now, I just wanted to touch on a little more on the Queen Mother of Darkness. So again, she runs the entire system. She corresponds with Lucifer every single night. Known as the crone, she holds all the central contracts with Ashtaroth and the demonic general. So Ashtaroth is the central principality here. She operates out of the Neuschwanstein castle. She gives the instructions to the 4 mothers of darkness, and they oversee those 4 quadrants. And the current Queen Mother of Darkness gave her authority to the Antichrist in April of 2020. So I do believe he is kind of overseeing the system at this point. So as for the 4 mothers of darkness, they're each given a name or a position title. So we've got one of them who will represent Sophia or wisdom, one will be Lady Liberty, one will represent Lady Freedom, and Lady Justice. So you can recognize which of these is in operation or has jurisdiction in an area when you look at these visual clues that you're going to find often in cities or governments. And so you can just see beneath there, I'm not going to go over all of them, beneath them, different points that you're going to recognize them. However, on the very, very bottom, Lady Liberty in the brackets, she holds the knowledge of all the international contracts. Okay, she's the one who holds that. Lady Freedom, she oversees milk contracts, and milk contracts are contracts that they've arranged with demonic principalities over the milk of different areas. So then she's also known by the White Horse of Revelation and given special military specs. And then we have Lady Justice, and she is gifted with operating and creating famine, pestilence, and the markets and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Now moving on from the top 3 orders, and we're still going to be in the top inner circle. We have the 2 paths, the dark side, which I have in blue here, and the light side, which I have in red. So again, we've gone through the order of the Phoenix, order of the Golden Dawn. So let's go on to the dark, or I guess just below that, we have something called the 4 Ps, and they are placed within these top 3 orders. So the 4 Ps, blue is the Phoenix, of course, Barack Obama, and his job, written in yellow, is he will cause the system to fall, and he will raise up Satan's kingdom. Then we have the Pindar, which I believe is Lord Moloch Brown, and it will be a 100-degree Freemason, and his job will be to prepare the way for the beast among the nation, like bringing in that one world system. And then we have the priest. This is going to be whoever is the high priest in Israel during the sacrifices. And then we have the prophet. And the prophet is going to be the Grand Imam. And right now, Ahmed El Tayeb, I believe, is that person. So, again, we've got our top 3 orders, the Melchizedek, Phoenix, the Golden Dawn, but we want to span more into these top positions. So within these orders, if they are in one of these 3 orders, they will be part of councils and various other orders. This is what makes it confusing, but they're in the top order, but they can be part of other orders. Now, from here down, we have various things from the light side to the dark side. So let's start on the blue, the darker side. We have the protectors. Within the top pyramid, we have protectors that are connected to the Mother of Darkness, and they will oversee all of the departments. And we'll go over departments in a minute. We have soldiers, and they take all their orders. They are the sovereign military order of the Knights Templar and everything that goes with that. And then we have guardians, and the guardians work below. So it could be Earth or under the Earth. The Guardians are down here. And then we have the Galactic Federation, and they commands the Druidic Council. Okay, so this is that dark side. Now let's move to the right side. The Councilmen, they are not part of, or they're not one of these orders of the Melchizedek Phoenix or Golden Dawn, but any order that they are over, they are the decision makers within a quadrant for orders. So if there is a disagreement, let's say in one of the orders, they will go to their councilman, and that councilman will make final decisions. Okay? Then above, we've got the Watchers, the fallen angels. Okay, so we've got within this group of soldiers, we've got the Guardians that are below and the Watchers, which are your fallen angels within the system, the top pyramid of the system. And we went over the Galactic Federation, which commands the Druidic Council. And on the light side, we've got the Galactic Alliance, and that is the councilmen, okay, or rule with the councilmen. Now, those are the notes I have, so I may have, I'm not sure if they rule or oversee or report to. That's probably what it is, report to the councilmen. But the Galactic Authority is not over the land or the earth. And here is their job description. They prepare for rituals and trainings. They secure the perimeter and organize transportation of the expendables, which are children. They make access for child sacrifice. They give the elites protection. They do ritual cleanup and cover-up. They host the human meat markets. They hold distinguishable positions to ensure smooth operations in your local governments, your law enforcement, and support services, and the like. Okay, so that is the Galactic Authority. So if it's part of the Alliance, it's going to be the light side of the system, reporting to the councilmen and protecting them. If it's the Federation, it's more that satanic, the Druidic Council. Then we have our special chambers and the councils. So at the top we have the Council of 300, but then we have the Council of 3, Council of 5, Council of 7, 9. And those are the ones who oversee those quadrants and are the decision makers, okay, if that quadrant has any issues. So this is separate from the kind of pyramidic scheme that we have going on, but they are still over these to another degree. And so the special chambers are all overseen by Somerset Belanoff. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to look again, top down, like their structure with the highest 3 orders. I just want to say that the orders within the sovereign military are according to their specialty. So if they're in the sovereign military or training, it's according to what kind of magic. Are they going to take the left-hand path or the right-hand path? And it will depend also on their light spectrums that they can operate and the degrees of illumination that they have. So they will all start off with degrees of illumination and then move into these, and then they are no longer known by their degrees of illumination or by their Freemasonry. They're known as something completely different, and they do not need to claim Freemasonry. Okay, so again, we've got our top 3 highest orders. We've got the protectors, who are connected to the Mother Darkness. We have the councilmen, the final decision makers. We have our sovereign military order. We have the protectors. Okay, those all work for that top. Then we have our quadrant generals. They are called supreme preceptors, and they are in the Knights of Pythis. Okay, and then from the quadrant, we move down to a regional level, and they are called the commanders. They are called preceptors in the system, and that is in the Knights Templar. And within that, under them, we have the Knights of Malta. And within Knights of Malta, you have any one of these orders, the Order of the Bath, Order of Garter, or Order of the Thistle. And so those all fall under these knight categories. Now, before I show you an image to help with kind of organizing this information in your head, I just want to zone in on this sovereign military, which we saw are connected to the protectors and the top councilmen. So these are the ones who train young men in the system, and I'm sure you've heard of these or other groups, but it's not just some blowjo kind of group or wannabes. If they're any type of knights, that means they hold a high position in the system. So these are some of the ones that you may have heard. So we have the Ninth Circle, the Knights of the Bath, Knights of Columbus, Knights of the Garter, Knights of Pythos, Knights of St. Andrews, the Templars, and the Priory of Zion, and many, many more. But I just wanted to kind of make a note of that because sometimes we think that, oh, it's just some silly group, but it is not to be taken lightly. Okay, so here we have a top-down overview of the pyramid. So think of it as though the square pyramid is beneath you and you have this bird's eye view of it, and this is what we're looking at. So the top center, like of the pyramid, but on this page is going to be the middle center, we have the Queen Mother of Darkness surrounded by the four mothers of darkness. So if you look at the legend to the left, that purple circle represents the queen of the system. And her main connection is to the principality of Ashtaroth. Of course, Ashtaroth can be known as Isis or other names as well. But Ashtaroth holds that central position to all the other principalities and powers. And currently, the main spiritual gate that they use is at the, I can't say this, Neuschwanstein Castle. That gate, okay? So that's where she meets Lucifer every night. And then on the legend, beneath that, we see the teal triangle representing the protectors of the Mothers of Darkness. And so on the sheet, that's where you're going to see it. We're going to see all of these protectors are kind of within that diamond. And then there's that black dotted diamond that they're in. And that black dotted diamond represents that main gate. Okay, so these are all in the very top pyramid structure. We've got the Queen Mother, we've got their protectors or the Mothers of Darkness, and then their protectors, and they all operate and they're protecting that main gate. So from here, going outside of that diamond, we have the 8 deadly sins. And these are actual names of the 8 women in the system who protect this inner circle. It's another layer of protection, and they go according to the 7 deadly sins in Proverbs. And then we have the 8th deadly sin. We can see here where their positions are. You'll see in that black diamond 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we have the one just with a dot. That represents the position of death. That is the 8th deadly sin, is death. Of course, we know that death will be the last one to be conquered. That position Jesus will remove. But here we see that these positions are that black diamond, and they, again, protect the mothers, they protect the gate, and that's the added layer of protection, and they operate in dark magic. So from here, we're going to look into the inner cube. So then outside of that diamond, we have this cube or square. So these are still in that top inner structure of the system. But we have 4 positions, which I said are known as those 4 P's, that they're held within the cube of life. So I've noted them on the legend by color. So the dark blue is the Phoenix, who operates in the Western Quadrant, and the Western Quadrant's ancient gates, which we can see at the top of that page, the white part of the page. And again, that's currently Barack Obama, and his job is to cause the system to fall and raise up the kingdom of Satan. And then next we have the green, we have the Pindar, and the Pindar, he is that 100-degree Freemason who prepares the way for the beast among the nations, holds political alliances, finance, economy, and the world currencies. And he oversees that northern quadrants and its gates, and we see that on the top right of the page. And then in the yellow, we have the priest of Israel who oversees the eastern quadrant and its gates. And then lastly, we have the prophet, who will be the grand imam, and he prepares the world for the coming of the beast to worship the beast. Okay, and he oversees that southern quadrant and its gates. So you're going to know them by their colors, and their colors tell you what magic that they operate in. So we have the water being blue. The earth magic is going to be the green. We have the air magic, yellow, and the fire magic is red. So then from here, outside of that cube, we have these 4 kings, and of these, we have those 4, purple squares that are attached to that cube of life. And so those are 4 kings, and of those kings, that first king on the top there is overseen by the Phoenix, which is that blue square, okay, and that's Barack Obama. So my conjecture, this is simply my conjecture, that possibly those other 3 kings may be the ones that give their authority over to the first king, and he gives it to the beast. So I guess we will see, but that's according to scripture. So on the right, we have the legend, and it shows that the quadrants, which are all those different colors, blue, green, yellow, red, they are placed within countries, within continents, and over the world. So there's several different quadrants. If you're in a country, you can look at those quadrants. If you're on a continent, you look at quadrants from the continent, or in the world, you could look at a quadrant according to the world map. And they are run by the 5 major departments. And here's the departments on that right legend. We have the Jesuit Catholics, the Masons, Mormons, Satanists, and Kabbalists. So, yeah. And then from there, we have all those orders or circle groups. Okay, so these people can be in as many orders or circle groups as they want, while they're under the headship of what they trained. So as long as they're in wherever their training was, they can go into any circle group that they want. So for an example, you can be Order of the Golden Dawn and Order of Melchizedek, while also being fully enlightened Freemason and maybe Order of the Tall Trees. So the lesser orders, they kind of have to work their way up. So they have to have those lesser orders to attain higher orders, kind of works on their specialty magic and allows you to attain kind of that godhood, which the Order of Melchizedek believe they've attained that godhood. So you would choose one path, the right hand or the left hand path, as you begin, and you're going to kind of stay on that path through the Brotherhood, going up through your various degrees. So, and then I want to go to how you read this as kind of a clock. So starting at the top, I have the word clock, but that would be 12 o'clock. So when you go into cities and they have any type of a round sigil or even a square sigil now, you would kind of read which principalities would be over that area based on predominantly the sigil and where things are pointing. So if it's at 12 o'clock, you've got Abaddon. If you go to that number 3 or 4, which would be like a 2 o'clock and maybe a 2 o'clock and a 3 o'clock, we've got Azazel and Thoth. Then we've got Moloch, Baphomet, Baal, and then moving to the other side of the clock, we've got Moloch, Chemosh, Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth actually holds the middle, but I don't know why I put her there. And then we have Gilgamesh and Samael. So that's their positions when you look at it from north, south, east, and west, okay? It is important to understand, just again, when you're entering areas that have sigils, because it will be displayed. But for now, we do see that these are their demonic generals. We have Abaddon currently ruling the 10th gate of hell, and he's at the top of that contract of the system. And if you were to come down through that center mother of darkness, that's where we have Ashtaroth, and she holds all the contracts with these other demonic generals. Okay, and at the very bottom, we have the Leviathan. And now Leviathan, if we're looking at this as a pyramid, he would be at the very bottom of the pyramid, and he has dominion over the waterways. Okay, so he's going to be very important for the days coming. But then we do in the light blue, I have the 4 cherubs of heaven who are in their positions, and that the Lord has given them, and they war with the generals in those areas of jurisdiction. So we've got Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel, and they are the warring angels, the angels, I guess, that God has put over these particular areas of the earth. Okay, so we're looking at physical and spiritual kind of interconnected with this on that sheet. So again, here is just that position from that side vantage point. We were just discussing that top as if we were looking from a bird's eye view. Now, I just want to deviate slightly to show behind the scenes that we have the 2 kingdoms of the enemy, that dark and the light side, which I have here in blue and red. But these are also the financial backers of the entire system. Now, I'm going to just bring in King Arthur and his Knights. It's a book many people will probably know about, but they take books of supposed fiction, and they use that as their guide for their planning, I guess I could say. So we have the system of Babylon, which is the dark side, and we have the system of Leviathan, which will appear to be the light side, and then we have Merlin and King Arthur. Now, we have Babylon, which is Vatican, or the Vatican or Rome, and this is the structure under which all the contracts were filed, or will be filed, or are filed until the very end times. And those contracts are being held by the Order of the Golden Dawn. They keep track of all the contracts with Babylon and all the demonic generals and that. But as Babylon gets dismantled from within, because they're dismantling their own Babylon, they will hold only outer contracts, but no longer the very important or those inner contracts. They're not going to be holding that. So the system has fallen or is in the middle of being fully dismantled as we speak. Then we have the Leviathan system, and this is the system they are currently getting put into place. The Leviathan is also known or run by the Sanhedrin or the Holy See. So this is the structure under which all the contracts are coming in with the end times. So they are going to be held by the order of the Phoenix. He is going to hold all these contracts. So as Babylon is dismantled from within, the Sanhedrin holds those inner contracts, and Babylon is only going to have the outer contracts. Now, the contracts under the Leviathan system move into a square contract, and that's kind of their summoning space to death, which we saw. I'm going to go back up here for a second. Remember that square contract? We have the last deadly sin, which is death there, that in the cube of life. And then we've got the whole Leviathan system coming into a square. So when I was talking about the clock and reading it like a clock, they will now, instead of having it in a round sigil, it will look like a square. But you will read it the same way as if it was a circle, but it's going to be in a square. So you're going to be seeing a square as a circle when you're going into cities, and then you're going to be able to see, because everything's turning perfectly squared because they're just taking over, all of God's plan in his temple, and they just want to do things their way. So this is the Leviathan system currently rising. So we have the Sanhedrin, the Holy See, and then from here, we've got the story of Merlin and King Arthur. So the story of Merlin and King Arthur is the outlaying of the plan for the end times deception. So in the book, they have a round table, which is the Holy See. It's also known as Merlin. We got that wizard Merlin. And these are 5 men who oversee the Vatican and everything of Rome, and they have been training the chosen Antichrist. There's, aside from the basic structure of the system, we will have the Queen Mother of Darkness giving her authority to the Antichrist, who he will then oversee the whole system. But these men have trained a chosen Antichrist. So if you know about the Sword and the Stone with King Arthur, he had been chosen ahead of time, but they have to make it appear that the people choose the Antichrist. So this is going to be part of that great deception. The people will choose the Antichrist because of events they put in place. Now, back to this pyramid, and we're going to move from that top, kind of work our way down a little bit more into hierarchy level and position. So we come back to the structure. We're going to break it down. It goes out to the whole world. So then we have the quadrants. From that inner top circle, we now split everything into quadrants. Countries have quadrants. The continents have quadrants. Okay, so we've got the inner top rulers, that circle. Then we have the world, continent, and countries that are all split into 4 quadrants. And then with each quadrant, they're separated into regions. Okay, so in that bright yellow, I have kind of that job. So within the inner circle, quadrants and regions, they have separate orders and circle groups that they participate in. So some of the higher orders or circle groups can only be attained through first completing a degree of lesser groups. And we kind of talked about that already. So separate from all of these, we have ruling councils that make decisions, kind of like that just a board member that's kind of to the side. We have the sovereign military groups that protect all the system's assets. And then separate also from these are the funding departments that pay for various orders groups via the Kabbalah. So we have system administrations who keep all the contracts. And we had Jacob Rothschild. We have from the Order of the Golden Dawn. They have been the ones to keep these contracts. Now, the 2 main contributors, which we talked about, are the Vatican and the Sanhedrin. Okay, so this is the breakdown of what we're looking at from that structure. Now, specifically for quadrant, here we have who's in the quadrant. We've got the Grand High Priest or Priestesses of Delphi. They rule over the entire quadrant. Then again, we've got our light and our dark side. So our dark, we've got Satanic Council. Light, we have something called the Sisters of Light. Now, I'm just going to go back up here. See these circles, the blue, green, yellow, and red? Those are the Sisters of Light that also kind of protect They're the light side protectors in those various quadrants, okay, from the top of the system. And they're in very high positions. Here we go. I think this is where I was. Okay, and so the Satanic Council and Sisters of Light work in conjunction to the Grand High Priest, and they also could be a Grand High Priest. So then on the left, on the dark side, we get, of course, Barack Obama with the top seat. We have Beyonce. She's Queen of the Western Quadrant. We have George Clooney. I can't remember which one he's part of. We have Lilith Aquino, Temple of the Seth in the West as well. And then of the Sisters of Light, the only one that's been named so far is Amy. Oh, I think I have her name wrong. That is it Amy Comet? Anyway, she is one of the people in high positions in the United States for I don't know if it's a judge or a senator. Judge, I think it is. But anyways, so they do tend to hold very high positions when they're quadrant leaders. Okay, so the quadrant wizard is going to work with the Grand High Priestess. So we've got Priestess of Delphi, and we've got a wizard that works with her. Now, the Grand High Priest or Priestess is connected directly to the quadrants, and there's 4 Queens of Hell. So if she's working on the dark side, she is for surely connected to the 4 Queens of Hell, but they do want to keep contracts to the 4 Queens of Hell in their quadrant. It gives them more power. So below the ground, there is varied parts of hell that they call Queens of Hell, which is underground queens that rule the underground world beneath our feet. Now, the northern quadrant is if you're in an area and you see whether it's flags or government buildings or this, that, or the other thing, it will be represented by a dragon or a bird, okay? And they call that at the highest level, it's an eagle cherubic contract. So they make contract with these great demonic beings and, and giving them power and jurisdiction. In the southern, it's represented by a man or a knight, a native, or an arrowhead with primitive tools, and that just shows their contracts. In the eastern, it's going to be represented by Leo the lion or some sort of carnivore. And the western is represented by a horse and rider, and they also have that cherubic contract. And you'll often find Order of the Red Men, using farm or workers' animals, an ox, horse, sheep, camels, something like that. Okay, so we have the 4 quadrants that the Grand High Priestesses are over. The north, south, east, and western quadrant. So they will all work under that quadrant High Priestess and the quadrant Wizard. And quadrants, they're going to show their colors by their contracts. So we've got yellow, blue, red. It's going to tell you what type of magic they excel in. There's different magics, so the chemical, alchemy, potions, elements, electrical, currents, environment. There's many types of magic, and they're kind of going to read it like that so they'll know what kind of magic is in a certain quadrant. And just on the Queens of Hell, I kind of said that, but they do rule below the earth in that quadrant. So the Queens of Hell are the sorceresses, and they rule their hell with 3 wizards. They rule their area below the ground with 3 wizards, and they operate in black, gray, and white magic. So we've got a lot of contracts above ground, but then we're also moving below ground. So more of the structure. Again, we have our quadrants in the country and continent. We have our inner circle. We've got the 4 quadrant, and within that, then we have the regions in the quadrant. And a little more detail into this, we've got the high priests and priestesses, or the top druids and goddesses that run the quadrant, and their job is to oversee the regional covens. Okay, so the region has covens. The high priest is in the quadrant, but they oversee this region. That's how the business works. So they can start a coven, and they would be the decider if they're going to operate in black, white, or gray magic. And they're also it might depend on how they operate in their light spectrum. Like if they operate really well in the blue light spectrum, they would connect to the lower abysses, that kind of thing. So every region, they're going to have wizards, magi, druids, and warlocks. And for the women, they will have oracles, goddesses, and witches. So this is how they label them within the region. Now we're going to talk a little more about the 5 departments. And these 5 departments run through all 4 quadrants and down into the regions. So now we're kind of coming into that lower level. So from the inner top, and then we move into quadrants, and then bottom is the regions. Color me yellow, the whole thing. We're going to reach down kind of to the bottom of that structure. So we've got 5 main regional operations departments, and these operate within the quadrant, and they're overseen by protectors. So we have the 4 protectors at the top, but these will also have protectors or some sort of sovereign military protecting them. 5, we've got the Jesuits, the Masons, Mormons, Satanists, and the Kabbalists. And each of these, again, can be part of various degrees, orders, and circle groups, and that's what makes it confusing. But these are the departments, and they can be part of any, and they will be part of any or more, one or more of those, likely several. So again, we've got a Freemason after the 3rd degree. He has or does his humanitarian efforts. He has to fulfill all his quotas of evil and magic that will be completed through all the orders. So, if he decides he's going on the dark side, he's going to maybe have to do the Order of the Jesters or something and complete his evil magic in these orders in order to maintain or go through illumination. So once they've achieved the higher or highest levels of Freemasonry, then they will be known according to the order or circle group. And again, they will not call themselves a Freemason, and that's how they hide their illumination. So they can honestly say, no, I'm not a Freemason, because in their own mind, they now see themselves as the Order of the Golden Dawn or something, right? So the regional operations, these operate within quadrants and are sovereign foreign nation representatives. So if they operate in your country, they are only going to be sovereign to the Brotherhood, not to the country that they live in. So sovereign knights, really any of the knight groups, and priestesses in every region, they will be known as lords and ladies of the land. Okay? And literally, if we look back in the 1800s and beyond, if they were called lords or ladies, very likely they were within the Brotherhood in regional operations. They will use mansions, libraries, YMCA, schools, university, etc. To coordinate and host sex magic parties as occultic duties. We also have vampire protectors, and they can also be called lords and ladies. So some of them are true real-life vampires or vampire protectors. They will protect those that do those things. So all of these regional operations, the people in the regional operations, they will define themselves with 3 humanitarian efforts, ethics, and morals by which they define themselves. So maybe freedom, charity, justice, wisdom, knowledge, honor, that kind of thing. So we've all seen that before. And so now just kind of going into various orders, there's hundreds and hundreds, but again, they can be part of any order or circle group that coincides with their chosen path. So here we've just got a ton of different orders. I will try and make a separate one condensing everything that Jessie's talked about, what these all, the symbols of them, and kind of more information about what they do. Here's circle groups again. They can be the Ninth Circle, Council of Nine, any of the councils, Freemasons, Kiwanis, Lions Club, Rotary Club, Rosicrucians, Skull and Crossbones, Royal Arc Degree, Shriners. I mean, these are all various circle groups you can be in. And then I just want to kind of close this up with the women of the system. So just like how God set up Adam, or the man, to be the head of the home, and Satan just does everything backwards. So he's got women ruling the system, running the system. But I just want to talk about the ones in the upper level departments, which is the priestesses of Melissa and priestesses of Delphi, which I've got 2 pictures kind of them here. These are the 2 highest groups. So the priestesses of Delphi, they have the most authority. They'll often use the symbol of Apollo, and they have H contracts, which are contracts with all the 72 demonic spirits, Solomonic spirits, demonic contracts, above and below ground. And if it's an H, kind of with the H levels being arched, it just represents wherever it's pointing on the clock that I showed you. That tells you which principality they're having contracts, powers with, and if it's nighttime or daytime, that kind of thing. So if those if you come across, say, a government building or a sign, a sigil, and you seeing the tilted pillars on it, that tells you how many arc degrees they are at. Are they Order of Melchizedek? Are they high priest or a grand high priest? Are they an oracle? They kind of display their stuff on symbols. So these ones would train for Project X, Project Greek Isles. They're places where the knights seek the oracles and divine their journey. It's done by testing. I mean, they do so many things. It's very, very, it's, I don't know, very esoteric, evil witchcraft, it seems like. And then we have the priestesses of Melissa, and you can tell them more by the gold, bees, beehive, honeys, pharaoh imagery. You kind of read through that, and just a little bit more about what their jobs are or how to recognize when they work in a certain area. And this is their societal orders or groups. We can see all of these, again, ruling the Brotherhood, doing their magic, participating in orders and groups. So they could be part of any of these and work their way up from the lower ones to the upper ones. And so priestesses, they are going to use Egyptian symbology connecting to their contracts, and they're going to have their 4 main gods. And those Egyptian gods are going to hold the contracts, and they're going to be represented by various colors. So just kind of to give you an idea. And then the mother goddesses, they can be in part of any group, but with the top druid, they will oversee all the covenants in that regional area. And above them, they've got the high priestesses or high grand priest, which is of Delphi. And then lastly, of course, we've got the Queen Mother of Darkness connected to the 4 mothers of darkness, and the spiritual powers to the 4 horsemen of Revelation, which we kind of talked about as well. So the women's societal orders and groups, again, for the 4 mothers of darkness, their titles reveal the connection to the light spectrum if they're low or high. Blue would be a low, for instance, and connected again to the queens of hell by contract. So they've got a lot of contracts. But each one has authority over a quadrant or the quadrants internationally in the USA via the Jesuit churches. Now they all use ribbon contracts, and they'll have words on them focused on humanity. And those words come from a principality or power, whichever one has authority over them. Okay, and their name title is usually what their group beneath them takes on and used to represent themselves. And each of these mothers is going to represent one of the 4 main mothers of Israel. And then their jobs are to oversee the temples, handle all things that the Queen Mother of Darkness or, and the priestesses in their area are going to kind of, they're going to take it down to them, and they're going to be handling it. So as we can see, this is completely satanic and backwards from the way God has done things. So hopefully this gives you just a very brief overview of things to help understand. And of course, if you want in-depth, if this intrigues you, go listen to Jessie Czebotar, but she's got hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of hours. Another great resource would be Veronica Swift. She's got a great blog, and she kind of documents all of these various things. So that kind of sums it up in a very brief light, but hopefully it can help to understand some of the kingdom of darkness that we are dealing with and how they have many contracts, principalities, powers. They try to make it so confusing, but praise the Lord. We have the name of Jesus, and our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and we can overcome. We can overcome this by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So we can testify and hopefully break people free and out of the veil, the bondage, and even those that are caught in the system and can't get out, that, we could be the ones to help set them free. God bless.